This episode of the Sloopcast is brought to you by the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company is an Ohio-based company where they usually say our seasoning will take your barbecue from good to great. With great seasonings such as, I'm a little biased, but I'm going to go ahead and give some of the other seasonings some love here.
Yes, please.
A good old S&P Bud. Good salt and pepper based seasoning just goes great on any of your meats.
Yeah. It's basically a salt and pepper rub. Instead of just being like a salt and pepper topper, it's a salt and pepper rub.
One of Jared's favorite, the Coffee and Q.
One of my dad's favorite now.
Ooh, it is. Nice. Yeah. Well, if you're going to go with dad favorites, my dad liked the Sonoran Heat. Sonoran Heat is a very versatile seasoning. You could put it on burgers. You could put it on chicken. Put it on whatever you want to give it that little bit more of a kick. If you want even more of a kick, do a Four Horsemen.
I also want to throw out there that if you like the Sonoran Heat, but you want something a little bit smokier, there's the smoked.
Check out all the seasonings that the Mad Canadian has to offer at the MadCanadianBBQ.com. Be sure to use the promo code SloopCast10 at checkout for 10% off. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where they have your butt covered.
This episode of the Sloopcast also brought to you by Wolf's Ridge Brewing. Wolf's Ridge Brewing, if you've listened to the past few episodes, you know, are delivering through all of the major markets in Ohio right now. And not just right now, for the first time ever. They're also canning more beer than ever. Kyle, I'm going to try and do this. You ready? You going to time me on this? Time me on this.
All right. Go.
The Daybreak, the Pack IPA, the Heartlandia, the Citrus Surf, the Leisurely, the Heffenwedge, the Gold Standard, the Modern Lager, the smoked one that I don't know how to pronounce, the Crispy, the Hammer Toss, the Oak-Aged Tilt-Back 4-Pack, the Stay Home, the Ripple, the Yeah Mate, the Fury brand, not Furry, Fury, the World Map, the Cinnamon Toast Brunch, the Creamsicle, and the Cherry Cordial. All of those in cans. Jared, do they have any bottles? They have the Direwolf Full Pack, the Night Method, the Monk's Hood, and the Très du Sauvage Green. I don't know how to say French things, but that's also available. And they also have growler fills. I'm not going to do all of those. Maybe check in on the next ad read. All of this and more can be found at wolfsridgebrewing.com. That is wolfsridgebrewing.com. We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing pretty well. How are you doing, Jared?
A little bit out of breath. Whew.
Yeah, that's a lot of beer.
It's a lot. They also have a make your own pack now too, but we're not in the ad read anymore. If you want to hear about that, wait till the second act. We tease the ad reads on this show because we're professionals. We also should probably tease what actual podcast content we have coming up. So, we have a decommitment, we have a retirement, we have a couple predictions. I mean, surely they'll be wrong, but a couple predictions. We're going to try and predict out the rest of the 2021 recruiting class. And, Kyle, I'm going to premiere my top 10 most likely recruits for the 2022 class. Way too early to be doing this. Way too early to be doing this. It's in fact, it's absurd. It's absurd that I am doing this, but there wasn't a lot of news this week. And that's just me being honest with you. And then we have a whole bag, like a whole bunch of Ask Sloopcast questions. So we'll get to all of those. All right, Kyle, you want to start with the decommitment?
Yep, let's get it out of the way here. Devonta Smith, the 3-star corner who committed to Ohio State back in March, quickly decommits from Ohio State earlier this week. I was a little surprised. Wasn't expecting that offhand, though. Expect more of this as the season goes along here. especially with players not being able to travel, do their official visits. This is just going to be the start of it, not just at Ohio State. It's going to happen everywhere.
Yeah, and just so we're super clear on a few things with Smith. Sometimes people just fall back to old narratives when a player decommits. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with Smith and why he decommitted. One, he really just noticed the number of defensive backs already in this class and the number of defensive backs that Ohio State are still pursuing in this class. And he just maybe thought it might be better somewhere else. That's not to say that he's afraid of competition. And that's not to say that Ohio State kicked him out of the class to make room for more. Neither of those things are true. He simply, and of course this is me now sort of filling in narratively, but he sort of just goes to Ohio State and says, hey, there's already like 6 of us in this recruiting class, defensive back wise. Are you done? And Ohio State was honest with him and said, no, we're not. We're still pursuing defensive backs. Potentially up to 2. And that was 2 with Smith in the class. And, he just maybe thought he had better opportunities elsewhere. And again, that's not him being afraid of competition, and that's not Ohio State just trying to get a scholarship back. He wasn't processed. He didn't quit. It was just mutually beneficial, especially since Devonta Smith has options because he's talented. I mean, he's leaving the Ohio State recruiting class. There's conversation between him and Bama. There's conversation between him and Oregon. And there are other teams in play here. So I don't want this to be a situation in which people either want to think negatively of Smith or negatively of Ohio State, because I just don't think either of those narratives are accurate here.
Moving on from the decommit, we'll go on to a former Buckeye who has announced his retirement from football altogether. That would be Matthew Baldwin. Those who remember, Baldwin last year transferred to TCU. Unfortunate with the injuries to, I think he had knee, back, load of injuries throughout his career, and he's just going to hang up the jersey from here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You might remember one of the reasons why Ohio State was very, very high on Baldwin, but they ended up, and I hate to use terminology like this, but it's true. When their primary quarterback target was playing the game a little too much, was flirting with, even though he's committed to Ohio State, he was flirting with Alabama, maybe played the game a little too much, and then found his spot wasn't open at either of those schools anymore, and then he ends up at Florida, and I wish him well. But then Ohio State settled. Again, I hate to use words like that, but they settled on a guy like Matthew Baldwin. But one of the reasons why Baldwin was available is because he blew his knee out and was just not, I believe he blew his knee out in the state championship game his junior season, and therefore didn't have a senior season. I might be mixing that up a little bit. It's been a while since we talked about that recruiting class. Point is that he started his college career with an ACL tear. You hurt your knee, and you hurt your knee that young, and then there was other knee injuries, and knee injuries can lead to back injuries, and man, it's unfortunate because I think he had a lot of potential and a lot of upside, but it just didn't come together for Matthew Baldwin. I think a lot of people like to ask the question, man, what if Fields didn't come to Ohio State? Well, Fields doesn't come to Ohio, because that often comes in conjunction with kind of the mess that Tate Martell has been in at Miami. And Matthew Baldwin, potentially his entire narrative changes. It's not to say that TCU mishandled it. I'm not saying that, but just the weird sliding doors butterfly effect of what happens if he stays at Ohio State. Does he stay healthy? Does he not? Maybe he doesn't stay healthy, but maybe he does. Maybe he's doing great things at Ohio State right now. in an alternate universe in which Georgia doesn't screw up and lose Fields, where Tate Martell stays in Columbus, but it doesn't go well. Weird alternative history that you can play in college football sometimes. Unfortunately for Matthew Baldwin, this particular reality and this side of the sliding door just didn't work out for him, and it sucks by all accounts.
Yeah, just wish him the best of luck here in his future endeavors outside of football.
People kind of chuckle sometimes when Ohio State talks about, their life after football program and kids who were, oh yeah, he really says he cares about academics. I'm sure he does. Yeah, well, this is the very real possibility that all of these players face. And a lot of the kids are smart enough to realize that there's a lot of paths that doesn't send them to the NFL. As it turns out, the school part really does matter. All right, so talking about kids joining up and where they're joining up and all of that, Kyle, I'm going to make a prediction. It's not a final prediction by any means, but I'm actually going to make a pair of predictions on how Ohio State finishes up this class. You ready for this?
Yep. So right now, before you move on here.
Yeah.
So right now, Ohio State has 18 commits right now.
Yeah.
So that would leave about 7-ish, around 6. Yeah, about 7 or 6 more.
I'm predicting it as a 25. I'm projecting it as a 25-man class. It might actually be 26, maybe 27, especially if they redshirt Jesse not redshirt, but gray shirt Jesse Mirko. It might end up being more than that, but I'm shooting for 25 right now. So I'm just I'm doing that. I'm shooting for 25. So right. I'm going to give 2 separate predictions. And of those 2 separate predictions, in both cases, I'm going to add 7 players.
All right. So who do you have here?
So in both I'm calling this my optimistic realistic. And so the first projection is optimistic realistic. And the second one I'm calling with a few key misses.
All right.
So the first one, well, actually, both of them. I have both of the kids from Washington. JT Tuimoloau. How to do on that?
Getting better.
Getting better, okay. And then Emeka Ibuka. I have both of them in both of the classes. I see them as near locks, as near guarantees. I don't have a crystal ball vote, but if I did, I'd probably have a 9 placed on both of them. Now, one of the first differences in the 2 predictions, in the optimistic realistic, I am giving Ohio State Tristan Leigh.
A much needed offensive lineman for this class.
Absolutely. Much needed. They really need like a true offensive tackle.
Yes.
And I think they have a good backup plan in case that doesn't work out, but right now, I'm going to go with Tristan Leigh in this class. That's, again, optimistic, realistic. This is an optimistic, but it's realistic, but it's real optimistic. I would say Ohio State is less likely to have Tristan Leigh than to not have Tristan Leigh. The odds are against Ohio State at this point in time, but yes. Again, optimistic, realistic.
Okay.
Next, Derek Davis Jr. Again, maybe on the negative half. Maybe Ohio State has maybe a 30-40% chance at this point in regards to Derek Davis Jr. But again, Kyle, what's the name of this prediction?
Optimistic, realistic.
Optimistic. We're staying optimistic. All right, next we have Tywin Malone. Now, Tywin Malone I have in both classes. He's not a lock by any means. I'm not sure with Malone in the same way that I am sure with either of the Washington kids. But I feel like Ohio State is more likely than anyone else, which is not to say that they're even over 50%, But if it's Ohio State versus any other one school, it's Ohio State. If it's Ohio State versus the field, it gets a little murkier at that point. But maybe giving Ohio State like a 51-49 edge right now.
Okay.
Again, Tywin Malone going in both of the predictions. Now, in the optimistic realistic, I'm giving Ohio State Jagger Burton.
This one's an interesting one just because of Kentucky's in play here.
As is Alabama.
And don't want to leave out Clemson as well. So it's between those four at this point.
And I would definitely say more so Bama, Kentucky, Ohio State. Now, a lot of people were slotting him. It's hometown, man. Never underestimate hometown, especially in this weird COVID situation that we're in right now.
Yep.
Because, like, typically when you see, like, Alabama, Ohio State, Kentucky, you sort of chuckle to yourself and says, which one of these is not like the other? But Kentucky's a very real player here. Now, the good news for Ohio State is that Jagger Burton just pushed back his commitment date. Which is exactly, if he didn't do that, if Jagger Burton didn't push back the recruitment date, I probably don't even have him in the optimistic realistic. Yeah, I don't think I would just be counting him out at this point. The fact that he pushed back the recruiting day, or excuse me, the commitment date is hope for Ohio State, and it's enough hope to get him in this prediction. Now, I have in this prediction an offensive tackle from the state of Michigan, Rayshawn Benny. I have Rayshawn Benny in both of these predictions, but he's definitely a more key member in the other one. Because Ohio State, I would say that this is like Ohio State's number 2 in regards to getting an offensive tackle. Now, that being said, if they can get both Leigh and Benny, they'll do it. You know, they'll go after a second tackle and then maybe not get that second tight end that they were looking at. Because they're still looking at wanting 2 tight ends. But if they could get both Leigh and Benny, then, you know, maybe they let the second tight end go for this year. Focus on next year with the tight ends. And get both Benny and Leigh. And I think they'd be pretty happy with that trade-off.
Yep, absolutely. You're not going to see much in terms of the crystal ball with Benny.
Nope.
Been very quiet. And even if you look at the list, their college list, you don't even see Ohio State up there on there. But
I promise you he is.
Just keep an eye out for him.
I have Benny in both of these. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Now with that 7 here,
yeah,
that would give Ohio State 7 5-star recruits.
Yeah, that's insane. But realistic. The only one I mention that's a reach is Leigh.
Mm-hmm.
I feel incredibly confident that the 2 Washington kids join. Jack Sawyer's not going anywhere. We're talking about a potential wave of decommitments coming. Jack Sawyer is a Buckeye. You don't have to worry about Jack Sawyer. Trayvon Henderson, despite the fact that he's from Virginia, is locked into this class. He's as active a member of this recruiting class as anyone else as far as recruiting elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Not worried about Donovan Jackson or Kyle McCord. Again, the only reach here, is Tristan Leigh. I feel real good that Ohio State ends this recruiting class with at least 6 5-stars, which is stupid.
Very stupid.
Very stupid. All right, so I mentioned some of the players that wouldn't make the optimistic realistic. So what happens in this case if Tristan Leigh, Derek Davis Jr., and Jagger Burton miss? That's the scenario when I talk about this next prediction, which I have dubbed a few key misses. So the 2 Washington kids are still in. Tywin Malone is still in. I still have Rayshawn Benny. Now, there's a little bit more put on Rayshawn Benny's shoulders in this scenario because he's now like the offensive tackle of the recruiting class, depending upon what, with Ben Chrisman, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? Right now, he's just a really good offensive lineman, but they're not necessarily sure where he's a really good offensive lineman yet.
Yeah.
So what happens if you miss on Leigh, Burton, and Derek Davis Jr.? So one of the things I want to look at is Jalen Davies. Jalen Davies just committed to Oregon not too long ago, but once the visits reopen, if Ohio State makes a push for Jalen Davies, that even if he felt a little bit spurned, even if he didn't want to have to wait like Ohio State was asking him to wait, all of that can be smoothed back over. And we could see Jalen Davies still make his way into this class, especially with Smith leaving, with Derek Davis missing. And, there's still that conversation of Jordan Hancock, who's currently committed to Clemson out there. I didn't quite add him to the optimistic realistic. If I wanted to make like an optimistic, maybe at that point I would include Hancock, but it's still a very real possibility have Jordan Hancock in this class. He just didn't quite make the cut for me. So, no Derek Davis Jr., no Devonta Smith, no Jordan Hancock. Now maybe we're looking at picking up Jalen Davies in this class. And then I also just have Ohio State maybe scrambling for offensive linemen a bit. And what happens when Ohio State needs to maybe add a couple offensive linemen late in the cycle, and these guys would join late in the cycle if they join, you have to look back to the state of Ohio. One of the first names I want to bring up is Mitchell Evans. Mitchell Evans, maybe a tight end, maybe an offensive tackle. He's still growing, and he might be outgrowing that offensive skill position tight end and moving a little bit more interior to the offensive line, at 6'6", 240 pounds, with his whole senior year left, might be outgrowing the tight end position a bit. So Ohio State's sort of thinking to themselves, do we want to get that extra tight end? Do we want to get that extra offensive lineman this class? Here's Mitchell Evans, who's a little bit of both. And again, sort of looking inward to the state of Ohio to pick up a late commitment, I think one of the names you absolutely need to keep an eye on is Terrence Rankle from Massillon, Ohio. Currently committed to Pitt, but if you're from Massillon, Ohio, and the Buckeyes come calling, I don't necessarily know that Pitt has the clout to hold off Ohio State in that scenario. All right, Kyle, those are the two scenarios I've mapped out for Ohio State. Again, maybe there's like a very optimistic, realistic that also places Jordan Hancock at Ohio State, and maybe he's the 26th player again, because this could be a 26 member class.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that optimistic is the same, but you just add Jordan Hancock in there as well. All right, Kyle. Ad reads? Let's do some ad reads. You want to go first, or should I go first?
We'll start off with the Mad Canadian here. So I'm heading back to Ohio next week to spend some time with some family here, and I'm definitely be bringing back some of the Mad Canadian seasonings with me. We're going to make some wings. We're going to make some burgers, and I'm going to bring some of the seasonings that I bought from the Mad Canadian. We're going to have a good old cookout for the 4th weekend here.
Yeah, you're not going to be that far from them. You might just be able to pick up some fresh bottles.
Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. Some of the ones that I personally have here that I'm bringing along here, some of my favorites here. The Snoring Heat mentioned before. Going to be bringing the Kerry Steak, one of my favorites. Also the Smoked. Those are my 3 go-to ones as well. And also the S&P Bud too. Those are 4 great ones I'm bringing with me. If you want something maybe a little bit more
Southwest,
you can go with the Cajun
or the Brits blend. Absolutely. And Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Mad Canadian is coming out with a couple of new seasonings now. They are out. They are
out.
Yes, they are.
The 2 new ones here that you can buy yourself out fresh from the Mad Canadian's lab itself here. The Old Fashioned and the Mad Hatter. Old Fashioned here is what he says here is probably our most interesting spice. Worked on to mimic the classic drink. We think we've nailed it. Sweet, bourbony, and just the right kick of bitter. Or the Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter is a salty citrus pepper blend. Great for those that love salt with a kick. Great as a finishing salt or to rim the glass of your Bloody Mary. Two more seasonings you can add to your collection at the MadCanadianBBQ.com. Be sure to use the promo code SLUCAST10 for 10% off your entire order. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, they got your butt covered.
This episode of the Sloopcast also brought to you by Wolf's Ridge Brewing. Kyle, I talked to you about all of the beers that they have, which is just an insane growth that they've had this year so far. And one of the reasons they're able to grow as fast as they have is because they're now delivering to all of the major markets in Ohio. They do Columbus deliveries because they're located in Columbus. So they do that Tuesday through Sunday. You place your order. You typically get it the next day. It's only a few bucks to ship. Great deal. No minimums. You can get growler fills. The growler fills are always moving. So I try not to read out what those are, but those are always cycling. But if you live in Cincinnati, you can get your orders delivered on Sunday, Cleveland on Monday, Dayton on Wednesday. And you might be thinking, oh, well, is Findlay a major market in Ohio? Yes, Findlay's a major market in Ohio. Akron, Canton, Findlay, and Toledo on Thursdays. That's right. You think, oh, he's talking about the major markets. He's probably just hitting the 3 C's. Oh, okay. Well, you're doing Dayton too. That's great. What about us here in Canton? We got you. We got you, Canton. We got the Hall of Fame. You think we're just forgetting about Canton? Akron. You realize, Akron, you're not that big, like compared to the 3 C's. Yet, you've put out as much music as any of the other cities. I mean, the band that does our openings from Akron, for Pete's sake. You got LeBron James. You got Devo? Devo. Come on. Akron, you guys, you're on the small, I'm going way off script here. I love you, Akron, is all I'm trying to say.
If you want to go,
and you know what? Wolf's Ridge loves you too, Akron.
You want to go with football? Can't forget about Buckeye legend Beanie Wells.
There you go. Okay, but we're way off topic. We're talking about Wolf's Ridge Brewing. They have the new summer seasonal 6-pack, which gives you 2 modern lagers, 2 leisurelies, 2 citrus and surfs. The citrus and surf is an easy IPA. That's what they call it. It's an easy IPA. It's got grapefruit in it. It's refreshing. It's amazing. It's not a shandy. I don't want to call it a shandy by any means, but it's almost like halfway in between a shandy and an IPA. If you can kind of imagine what that might be, like a grapefruit shandy mixed with an IPA. That gives you a rough idea of what's happening with the citrus surf. The leisurely, if you like a very fruity beer, this is it. This is your leisurely, strong raspberry flavor in that one. They now have a build your own 6-pack and I'm tripping on my words here. And Ohio is for Lovers bundle. You want to know what's in the Ohio is for Lovers bundle, Kyle? They have a t-shirt that says, get this, Ohio is for lovers. Then a mixed 6-pack that gets you a Gold Standard, a Heartlandia, a Hammer Toss, the smoked lager that I can't pronounce, the Crispy, which is a Pilsner, and then the dry hopped modern lager. By the way, they have a whole section of food here too. Both from the restaurant, but also just food that you can get delivered. Like some charcuteries, which isn't necessarily a thing I say or pronounce all that well, but you know, Sloopcast, what do you want? All this and more, and by the way, a lot more. All of this and more. Oh, wait a minute, Kyle, here at the top of the website. 4th of July week. Free shipping. Over $50, use promo code FREE4th. Which now that I say out loud, kind of sounds confusing, so I'm going to spell it for you. Free, F-R-E-E, the number 4, T-H. It makes a lot of sense when you look at it, but just saying it out loud, a little confusing. But it's free, F-R-E-E, 4th, the numeral 4, T-H, at checkout. If you put a $50 order in, you get free shipping. That's not bad. And by the way, if you don't want to spend $50, you're still fine. The shipping's only a couple bucks. They got you covered over at Wolf's Ridge Brewing. That's Wolf's Ridge Brewing, wolfsridgebrewing.com.
All right, Jared, let's take a look and introduce our listeners to the 2022 class.
Yeah, I'm going to, some of these names we've talked about, maybe some of these names we haven't talked about. I honestly can't keep track of who I've talked about when. But these are now, we talked about the 2021 kids. Now we're talking 2022.
Now,
2022.
We do have, just a reminder for everybody, we do have currently 3 verbal commits for the 2022 class right now. They include Jair Brown from Westchester, Ohio, more precise, Lakota West High School, CJ Hicks from Dayton, Ohio, and Tegra Chipola.
TSH. I believe he is from, or his family's from Nigeria. I think it's Nigeria, but yeah, in that language, a TSH is a CH. That's how we would pronounce a CH.
Chipola.
Yeah.
Same, also in the same high school as Jair Brown. Those 3 are currently the only 3 hard commits for the 2022 class.
All right, Kyle, I'm going to give you 10 names. These are my 10, I don't want to say favorite names, because that's not necessarily fair, but the 10 names who I feel most confident will be in this recruiting class come National Signing Day 2022.
All right.
So, first and foremost, we're talking about National Signing Day 2022. Cut me some slack. All right. One of the 2022 class has lost the most important camp season of their careers. The camp season between sophomore year and junior year, their rising junior camps, are the most important camps as far as being seen by other schools from a developmental standpoint, and also just from the ability of places like Buckeye Scoop and some of the amazing recruiting and talent evaluators that we have at Buckeye Scoop have at evaluating these players, and also that the coaches have to evaluate these players for us to sort of, when I say us, I don't mean Kyle and I mean the actual professional reporters, to talk to their sources to see how Ohio State feels about these kids. As impossible as developing a top 10 is at this early stage in the 2022 recruiting classes, it's pretty much impossible right now with everything going on in the world. But is that going to stop me? Apparently not. Number 1, Blake Miller, an offensive tackle from Strongsville, Ohio.
I think we've mentioned him a few times.
We have.
This year. So he makes our number 1 list here for the 2022 class. Number 2, also from Ohio, linebacker Gabe Powers.
Yeah, from Marysville, is the number 1 ranked member of the 2022 Ohio class. Number 3, Luther Burton. Ohio State's going to look to A, keep their streak of bringing amazing wide receivers into Columbus, and B, I almost said 2. I almost did like the A2. B, keeping an amazing pipeline from the city of St. Louis coming into Columbus. Luther Burden from Cardinal Ritter College Prep in St. Louis, Missouri, comes in at the inaugural list, number 3.
Coming at number 4 here, we have Deshaun McCullough. You have here, it is Kentucky, Jared, but he's actually from Kansas. Deshaun is
did I put the wrong? I did put the wrong thing.
You did. Shame
Sorry.
on you, Jared. Deshaun is
The important thing to keep in mind is that he's really from Ohio.
Yes. Deshaun is listed as an athlete, but going to be probably playing more of a corner defensive back position, though. Very, very talented kid.
Yeah, dad, brother both played for the Miami Redhawks. And he's an Ohio kid. The only reason he lives in Kansas is because I believe his dad works for the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe is the situation there. Next on the list is Sean Murphy. Once again, trying to keep some pipelines going. Ohio State has been doing a lot of work in the state of Virginia lately. They're going to look to keep that going, which should be a big recruiting class for the linebacker position. There's a lot of linebackers on the roster right now. I think they're not looking to bring in they're not bringing in a lot of linebackers for the 2021 class. We're going to see what Ohio State does from a linebacker recruiting standpoint in 2022. We've already told you about Gabe Powers, and Sean Murphy, I think, is also a very high potential target for Ohio State.
We're going to stay on that linebacker train here at number 6. We have linebacker Justin Medlock from Texas.
Yeah, he's one, again, so early in the recruiting class and with no camps and all the big preamble I did. He's quote unquote only a 3-star right now. Don't let that confuse you. Ohio State just doesn't walk into Texas during a pandemic. By the way, they digitally walked into Texas for the record, and just be like, hey, 43rd ranked kid from the state of Texas, come aboard. They don't just do that. So ask yourself, what's more likely? And the likelihood here is that this kid is very highly underranked. Next is Caden Curry. He is from Indiana. Ohio State, it's sort of like they're going to get their pick unless it's one of those Notre Dame kids, which, that happens a lot in the state of Indiana. But unless he's one of those Notre Dame kids, Ohio State really should get their pick of the litter from the state of Indiana. Caden Curry, a defensive tackle. He's sort of already like far and away number 1 ranked kid from the state of Indiana. Ohio State's already on top of him. He probably should be a bit higher on this list. And if you talk to me in a couple weeks, he probably will be a bit higher on this list. But Caden Curry, I think, is a player to keep an eye on.
Coming in number 8 here, we have running back Katron Allen from IMG Academy.
The famed IMG Academy. Don't necessarily know how many running backs Ohio State's going to end up taking in this class. They have 2 highly touted guys in the 2021 class. So you may be just looking at a one running back class in 2022. Katron Allen certainly could be that guy, although there are some really talented players in the state of Ohio that could be potentially in the mix too. Stephen Bird from, I believe that's actually Stephon Bird from Canal Winchester. Jabrian Payne, who is from LaSalle and Cincinnati. A couple other really good Ohio running backs. Does Ohio State take 2 running backs this next class? Do they just take the 1 running back in the next class? Do they maybe try and shore it up and get an Ohio kid early in one of those 2 guys who I just mentioned? From Reading, PA, there's Nicholas Singleton, could be a running back that they go after. But for right now, Ohio State and IMG Academy, there's certainly a long history there. So for right now, I'm looking at Katron Allen, but that could change because I don't necessarily know how many running backs Ohio State's looking to take in the 2022 class. Next up is Trey Bixby. Kyle, he's from Ohio,
mm-hmm.
and he's a strong side defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
How do you miss? If Ohio State wants him, And if he is even a little bit interested in Ohio State, I gotta feel like this happens, right?
Yes.
About the only, and again, sort of the evaluation period's all messed up. And Ohio State, because Ohio State is so good at recruiting defensive ends, you almost sort of, even though he's a 4-star player, an in-state 4-star player, you almost sort of be like, the number 15th overall strong defensive end, huh? Like that almost feels like such a reach for Ohio State in the defensive end realm. But again, the evaluation period's all messed up. Is he actually the 15th best strong side defensive end in the country? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
All of these numbers are just bound to change a lot between now and when it really matters. And
last one we have on our list here is defensive back William Johnson from Grosse Pointe, Michigan. Arguably one of the best defensive backs in this 2022 class.
Yeah, Ohio State's always going to be going after corners, and especially depending upon where they land as far as getting another true corner in the 2021 class. If Jordan Hancock never really turns out to, comes to Ohio State, and if they miss on another, it's possible that Ohio State might be looking to bring in some pure corners for the next class if things don't quite pan out in the 2021 class. William Johnson could be that guy. And that's my way too early, surely inaccurate prediction for the 2022 recruiting class. Kyle, I just want to state for the record that was a ridiculous exercise. And by the way, just because everyone loves quarterbacks, I didn't include any quarterbacks in the top 10. It all feels a little too muddled right now. Again, evaluation periods, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say it again. But some names to keep an eye on. From Fort Branch, Indiana, Brady Allen. From Junipero Sierra High School in California, Malik Murphy. Chase Harrison, who is from Dayton, Ohio. Might not quite be an Ohio State guy, but again, evaluation periods and blah, blah, blah. We'll see. And one guy who I am very high on from Medina, Ohio, Drew Allar, Allar, Allar. How would you pronounce that, Kyle?
Allar.
Mm-hmm. Drew Allar, again from Medina, Ohio.
One guy that Ohio State has an offer out, probably doesn't have a chance though, but I just like the name here, from Tiger, Georgia, Gunner Stockton.
Yeah, I mean, he's a quarterback and his name's Gunner. How could that possibly go wrong?
Yes.
Here's the problem though. He's from Georgia. He's from Tiger, Georgia. And he's the number 1 ranked dual threat quarterback in the country. He's just gonna end up either in with the name like Gunner Stockton from a town called Tiger. He's either going to Clemson or somewhere in the SEC, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it not happening. I don't know where Tiger, Georgia is, but if it's anywhere near that South Carolina border, they might as well just give him a Clemson jersey right now.
All right. Anything else for the introduction for the 2022 class?
I could talk, and we will, but I could talk for a long time about the 2022 class. But we're not going to though.
Let's spend the next 10 minutes or so here answering some of our Ask Sloopcast questions, Jared.
Yes, let's do some Ask Sloopcast questions. By the way, just because I wanted to do this at the top of the show, but then we got talking about beer and I forgot. We're taking next week off. We are taking next week off. That's it. Just 4th of July. You guys won't be listening anyway. We have travel. Kyle already told you he has travel plans. I didn't want to do another episode without Kyle so quickly. We're taking next week off. It's fine. I might dig out an old episode from the archives and plug it in. Or, I also just might not. And there just might not be an episode next week. Stay tuned. But just fair warning, don't expect an episode next week.
All right, let's get to the questions here. We'll start off with our fellow Patreons.
They're not fellow Patreons. They are our patrons.
Our patrons.
No, don't. Our patrons.
I like getting you riled up there, Jared. All right. First off, we have Duncan. Duncan asks us, with modern targeting rules, does Ohio State still beat Miami for the national championship?
Those rules go both ways. That's all. I mean, sure, why not? Who knows? Again, sliding doors. Who gets booted, who doesn't get booted. You can't just like watch that game and apply modern rules because those players aren't playing by those rules.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Not to mention just the targeting rule, but hey, that was actually a catch that would have ended the game in regulation.
Well, and that's a great point, Kyle. Forget about blah blah blah. Modern targeting rules. Think about what happens if instant replays in that game.
Yes.
Because we never even get to the, as Kyle points out, that was a catch. Replay should, Lord. You want to talk about replay should and shouldn't do if you want to derail the episode. But in theory, but also like you can't, but then like at that point, like, okay, that play, and then there's no overtime because Ohio State is maybe given that catch that they should have gotten.
Yep.
But also, what other plays changed throughout the course of the game that may have been changed by? It's a tidal wave of alternate realities.
Correct. Yeah. All right. Dinger asks us, considering the retirement of Baldwin, how do you now look on the Fields, Martell, Baldwin quarterback battle and what we should have been looking at had Georgia not fumbled?
We kind of talked about this one already.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. First off, that was never a quarter. Of course, he knows this because he puts battle in quotation marks. So I'm not telling Dinger anything he doesn't know here. That was never a quarterback battle. You want a real honest take on that situation? Fields was heads and tails. Continues to be heads and tails above both Martell and Baldwin. But there was a certain small segment of our fan base who was very invested, I'm going to say this, buckle up, in Ohio State, quote unquote, finally having a white quarterback. There, I said it. And when you were just like, what about Martell? Okay, you know what? There's a lot of hype around Martell. I get it. But the second Martell left, and then everyone says, well, what about Baldwin? It's like, all right, get out. You're done. Get out. I don't have to put up with you anymore. If you're really going to, what about Baldwin to me? Again, I feel bad for the kid. His career's over. I wish, and he was never going to be a guy who started as a sophomore, as a second, third. He was always a fourth, fifth year starter. That's who he was. That's not an insult because the same thing can and was said about Joe Burrow.
Yep.
Some guys just need a little bit more time to develop.
Yep. And
Joe Burrow is not upset about it. Matthew Baldwin could have done something similar, but obviously there aren't that many Joe Burrows that come around. Point is that it was always Fields. And what does it look like if Georgia doesn't fumble? Ohio State probably gets a different transfer quarterback, because at that point you actually can advertise, hey, starting, you're not going after Chug. You know what I mean? Like you go to West Virginia and you get Chug because Chug knows damn well he's coming in to be a backup. If you're Ohio State, maybe if not for Fields, could have been Hurts, could have been any other number of transferring quarterbacks who maybe didn't pan out where they went, but could have panned out at Ohio State. All right, the Mad Canadian asks,
yes,
socks with sandals? Kyle, socks with sandals?
Out in public? No. The only time I ever do that is if I'm too lazy to put on shoes and I have to go take the dog outside.
See, I feel like it's pretty rare in the house in which I am just wearing socks. Now, unless it's cold weather, then I might be. But then I don't feel like I'm putting sandals on. I feel like I'm putting shoes on at that point.
Well, sometimes I'm only out for like a minute or two, and I got to have the dog out on a leash, and I'm too lazy to put on shoes, and it's just like, hey, I just slip on sandals.
For a minute or two, and you don't really get that cold in North Carolina, so
yeah.
You know.
Out in public, no.
Southerner.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna go huge no. I feel like a lot of the young kids will do like the calf or knee socks with slides, and there's a difference between maybe a slide and a sandal and a flip flop. And I don't understand it, but they're the young ones and I'm the old one, so maybe it's a generational thing.
Maybe.
You have a young brother-in-law. Does he ever do the long socks with the slides?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. From Suncard, you can do season predictions for each tight end. Can you do? I read it wrong. Okay. So Kyle, I'm going to ask you this: over under 6.5 touchdowns. I was going to say for the tight ends, but no. Let's do it just for your boy.
Under
6.5.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you said tight ends total, I might have said 6.5 is a perfect number. I just think there's so much talent, so many
touchdowns.
Yeah, there is that too.
Going to be lots. I don't think the defense is going to be as good this year. There might be a lot more touchdowns to be scored.
Okay.
Let's see. Another one from Suncard. Which same number pairing on the current roster is the best combination? I don't know. Oof. That requires research. He says, let's assume Sermon wears 8. Who wears 8 on the defense? I don't know numbers. Is that weird? I don't know that many people's numbers. Last year it was obvious because it was Fields and Chase. So that was obvious. Do we even know whose numbers what all the numbers are this year?
I can look here.
Fields is the best player on the team.
All right, here we go, Jared. So if you want to go
number 2 on the defense?
You just said right. Oh nope, Fields is number 2. Never mind. I thought Olave's 2. I thought Olave was 1. Yeah, Olave's 2.
Well, I was just saying Fields was number 2 the entire time, didn't I?
Yeah.
I told you I'm terrible with numbers. I don't see the numbers. So Fields is number 1 and Okudah was number 1 last year. That was your best combination last year.
So maybe 2 years from now?
But 2 was also good last year because you had Dobbins and Young.
Yeah.
But I still would have gone with Fields and Okudah.
In a couple of years now, Jared?
So who's number 1 on the defense?
Nobody.
Nobody yet.
Nobody yet.
Yeah.
Maybe you give a couple years here. Both freshmen right now, but Fleming and Legend.
Ooh,
they both are number 4.
Fleming and Legend. That's a good combo.
Mm-hmm.
But again, maybe not for this year.
Yeah, like I said, give it a couple of years there. Trying to go down. Number 7. So we have 7 Banks and Cameron Bob.
I'm really glad they got 7 to 7 Banks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy.
We have 3 number 7s. CJ Stroud is also wearing it.
Again, not for this year. That's a good one to watch down the line, though. 7 Banks and CJ Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hell of a combo. Maybe just next year.
I'm just looking.
He said to assume Sermon wears 8. Who wears 8 on the defense?
John Baptiste.
Maybe. We have 2 big guys wearing 33, don't we?
Nope. Just have Master Teague. Only Master Teague.
I thought Zach Harrison. Did Zach Harrison change his number? What's Zach Harrison's number?
Let's see here. Zach Harrison is number 9 now.
Oh.
So here. I'm just going to read all the single digits.
I don't know numbers.
All right, single digits here. Justin Fields 1, Chris Olave 2, Demario McCall and Taraja Mitchell wearing 3.
Okay.
Fleming and Legend 4.
Mm-hmm.
Browning and Garrett Wilson 5. Potentially. Potentially.
Ooh.
Yeah. That might be it right there. Jamison Williams and Taryn Vincent 6. I said CJ 7 and Cameron Bob at 7. John Baptiste was 8.
And he said to assume Sermon was 8.
Okay, and Sermon 8. Jack Miller and Zach Harrison are wearing number 9.
Talk to him again maybe next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably Browning and Wilson.
Probably. And Wilson. I feel like someone's going to end up wearing the number 1 on defense, and then it might just end up being that.
Yes.
Just because Justin Fields carries that much weight.
Yep.
All right, next question. Another one from Suncard. What is your dream playoff scenario for the Bucks this season? Dream? Listen, I'm all about that national title. So let's put Ohio State in there with Bowling Green, Cincinnati. I have no shame. I don't care. North Carolina. I have no shame. I just want the national title. Listen, 5 years from now, no one's going to see a national title and be like, oh, but wasn't that the weirdest playoff ever? No, don't care. National title. Put it on the banner.
You know what? I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say that for the semifinal game, Ohio State defeats Florida.
Okay.
And then
Kyle, you're correcting wrongs right now, aren't you?
And then for the championship game, Ohio State gets their revenge against Clemson. Because who
who's
the hell?
Clemson beat?
Exactly. Who the hell is going to beat Clemson this year?
Oh no, I'm asking you in the playoff. Who has the other spot in the playoff? Just throw Alabama in there. It's fine.
Oregon.
I'm not nearly as high on Oregon as everyone else this year. All right, we have a bunch from our homie Austin Graham. All right, number 1. What television character would make the best linebacker? I mean, just like pick a superhero, right? They were all cartoon characters at one time, or he just says television character.
He-Man.
There you go. He's going to have to put some more clothing on.
Yes.
I mean, not necessarily that I'd put him at linebacker, but like you got to think about the Flash, right?
Flash would be a receiver.
Yeah, I think so. What about Nightcrawler? You literally can't block him. That's you just need like 11 Nightcrawlers. You don't even need 22 of them because he's not going to get tired.
All right, next question here. What is the most important or convenient invention of all time? And then what about the last 20 years?
Most important invention of the last 20 years is just the smartphone.
Yes.
It's
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. And then all time, I mean, if you go back far enough, the wheel, electricity, combustion engines,
peanut butter.
Peanut butter. Thank you, Kyle. That's up there. I'm not going to lie to you. It's up there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next one from Austin. If dogs did, nope. I don't envision a world in which dogs don't. My puppy has literally been resting his chin on my knee for the past 10 minutes. How dare you ask me to envision a world in which this little bundle of love doesn't exist? I'll read the rest of the question now. If dogs didn't exist, what animal would be man's best friend? Because the answer isn't cats. They hate people. Yes. I will buy into the second half of that question.
Maybe horse. Maybe a horse.
But you can't keep a horse in the house. They're just too big. Can it be man's
best? It doesn't
best...
say you have to keep it in the house.
But can it be man's best friend if it's sleeping in a barn outside?
Yeah. Dogs sleep outside too.
Mine don't.
I know mine doesn't either. But
in my bed.
I don't know. I think horse. For how long man and horse have been together?
Yeah, until we got the combustion engine, and then
yes,
we don't need. The second we stopped needing horses went away. Mm-hmm. We haven't needed dogs in centuries yet. Hi, what you doing, buddy? He's just right here, keeping his head on my knee. It's all about dog. By the way, I hear pigs make great animals, but then we'd have to sort of face reality that they're also bacon, and I don't think most people are not ready to face that reality yet.
Yes.
Another one from Austin. If Ohio State was forced to join another conference, which would you prefer? Which would you believe they would be most likely to actually join? The answer to both is probably the ACC. It makes the most sense geographically. Not that it makes a ton of sense geographically, because they're not really on the coast. I'm independence. Football independence. They and Notre Dame join whatever the opposite of a super conference is, and they just play each other 4 times.
I know the Buckeye Scoop have their NCAA 14.
I think they're calling it the Dream Season or something along those. It's on YouTube. Look it up. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. They have Ohio State
in
going
to
the
SEC West.
Yes.
They finagled something because they kicked Vanderbilt out and then moved someone, maybe Arkansas, I don't remember who, but then moved someone to the SEC East, put Ohio State in the SEC West, and then they still started the season with Clemson.
Yeah.
Guys, just go watch. Go watch. You'll enjoy it.
I wish I never got rid of NCAA 14.
You wouldn't have a console to play it on.
Oh shoot, that's right. It's not on the new console. All right. Anyway, another question. Who on Ohio State's roster would surprise you the least if they told you they were vegan?
And most. Yes.
And most.
Which one would surprise me the least? I feel like DeMario McCall is just like a big bundle of weird, and I say that with affection. I really say that with affection. I do just sort of feel like he's kind of a weird dude. That's all. And I say that, again, with affection. Who would surprise us the least? Got to be one of the slobs, right?
Of course, yeah.
Or excuse me, the most. Who would surprise us the most and the least? I'm lost. But yeah, most, who would surprise me the most would be one of the slobs. I don't know which one. Maybe Gavin Cupp. I'm going to say Gavin Cupp. He's from rural Ohio, and he's a big farm kid. There's no chance in hell
yes.
He's vegan.
Good old country boy right there. Last question here. Who do you think will be the next, in all capital letters, offensive coordinator at Ohio State?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm not prepared to answer that. Kevin Wilson could have easily left. That's a thing that could have happened. I know he was very interested in the North Carolina job when it was open. That obviously didn't work out, but he has an undeserved bad reputation because of some politics and some other things that went down in Indiana. So Ohio State's benefiting from that bad reputation because they've kept him years past where they should have kept him. But Kevin Wilson will leave eventually. And man, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that.
I don't think there's anybody. They would have to go outside of Ohio State, because I'm looking at this list here.
Yeah, Hartline's too young, just not experienced enough yet to be given the reins of the offensive coordinator position. Same for the quarterback's coach. He's a first-year coordinator. Stud has tried being an offensive coordinator in the past, and it has not worked out. I don't think that's the correct move to make. Who am I forgetting offensive coaching wise? Is that all of them? I don't know enough about Tony Alford from a career standpoint to say one way or the other. Yeah, I have to think, knowing the way Ryan Day has done a lot of his hires to this point, I almost feel like he's going to go after like a young NFL position coach who's about to become a coordinator. Or maybe a coordinator who lost their job because their entire staff was cut. I almost feel like he's going to go NFL for the next coordinator, and probably a young guy whose name we don't know would be my assumption. That might be a bit of a cop-out, but I think that's my answer for you. I would say a young under-the-radar NFL guy.
All right, and I think that is all the questions we have here. Again,
that is all of the questions we have.
Again, if you have a question for us, be sure to use on Twitter the hashtag AskSloopcast, and we will get to your question on our next episode. Or you can email us at sloopcast@gmail.com.
Or if you go to the Buckeye Scoop forum and leave a comment, because when this gets posted to the Buckeye Scoop, it also opens up a thread in the forum. You can also leave a question there, and we will answer it there as well. All right, Kyle, I'll just do the quick thing. Check out our Teespring store. Check out our Discord page. Our Patreon page, if you want access to our private Discord chat, where we end up talking a lot of music and beer and barbecue. We talk some football in there, but it's mostly beer, music, and barbecue. Again, check out the Teespring store. We got a bunch of cool posters and t-shirts in there. Twitter, Sloopcast, @Sloopcast on Twitter, Instagram. The Facebook is there. It's auto-filled mostly. We don't do a lot over on Facebook, but be sure to check out both the Instagram page and the Twitter page. Kyle, what's your Twitter handle?
I am at the crazy one, crazy with a K and one spelled out.
Again, check out the Patreon. You get early access to episodes. There are some other benefits, access to the Discord, a few other things. We have fun over in the Sloopcast Discord, and we're always looking for new members. And I think that's it. Kyle, do you have anything in Kyle's corner?
I have one, and that is, as we were recording this earlier on Sunday, Jared, our Columbus crew have taken a bus and are heading on down to Orlando.
All right, I have a question for you.
To play some good old football. Yeah,
they're doing the bubble system much like the NBA. Why on earth are they going to Florida? Where numbers are spiking right now.
At the time, it made sense. At the time this decision was made.
Does Florida ever make sense?
I don't know. Ask the Florida man.
No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Their first game, the Columbus Crew will take on rival Cincinnati.
Yeah.
On July 11th. July 11th is a Thursday. It's at 10:30.
Yeah, they have a couple of those. It's dumb and I hate it. I
understand it's Florida it's Florida and it's hot, but I mean,
yeah, I don't think it's on TV either. I'm not getting into what makes me mad about the Columbus Crew schedule because we don't have time.
Yeah, it is on Fox Sports 1.
But it is actually being aired?
It is Fox Sports 1.
Okay, that's good. I won't be awake to see much of it, but
I'll probably just watch the first half and that's it.
Wait a minute, when is that? The 18th?
11th.
The 11th, okay. Okay, anything else in Kyle's Corner?
That is all for me.
All right, tonight's ending music will be by Arlo McKinley. He has 2 singles off of his new album that is not out yet, but I'll be playing one of those. I don't know which one yet. Check the doobly-doo for the song title, and also to our sponsor links, Mad Canadian and Wolf's Ridge Brewing. Their links are down in the doobly-doo, as well as a link to the Patreon page and a link to the Teespring page. So with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Arlo McKinley.
I don't want to get high anymore. I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to settle old scores. I just want to come home. Back to the ones I love, where there's still plenty of room to make it better without ever hurting anyone. I could follow you down if you want me to. We both know that would be too long. Tomorrow they will all be gone once the morning comes. I wanna lay them down in the dirt, apologize to those I've hurt, make peace with everybody, including all my enemies. I could follow you down if you want me to. We both know that would be a mess. So I'm putting on my walking shoes. Goodbye. Wish you the best. I could follow you down if you want me to. But we both know that would be a mess. So I'm putting on my walking shoes. Goodbye. Wish you the best. Goodbye. Wish you the best.
I'd like to once again thank Arlo McKinley for ending today's episode, and I'd like to thank Wolf's Ridge Brewing for sponsoring today's episode. In the previous ad break, I told you that there are other things that you can buy at Wolf's Ridge Brewing. Now, their restaurant is still open for food delivery, so they have their full menu if you live in the Columbus area available to you. But, they also sell some other stuff. They have, from Ohio, North County Charcuterie. I can't say that word very well, but you know what I'm talking about. They have some black radish cheese, some pasture-produced eggs. Again, all of this is from Ohio. And some ridiculously good salsa. That's the name of it, okay? That's not my opinion, although I've had some and it is. But that's the name of it. It's called Ridiculously Good Salsa. And they also have some One Line Coffee. Again, that's an Ohio roaster. One Line Coffee. If you ever had the Wolf's Ridge Daybreak, which is their coffee cream ale, the coffee in there is actually One Line Coffee. Because Wolf's Ridge keeps it Ohio. Because they're rad like that. All of that and more can be found at wolfsridgebrewing.com. That is wolfsridgebrewing.com. Also sponsoring today's episode is the Mad Canadian. I did the super read, Kyle, previously for the beer. I'm going to do the super read again for our good friend, the Mad Canadian. All right.
All right.
The Brits Blend, which is a Southwest chili blend. Chili blend. That's awesome, right? Coffee and Q. It's good on your barbecue, especially if you love the flavor of coffee. It's coffee, it's barbecue. How could you go wrong? The Sonoran Heat, the do-all, a little bit spicy. It's not spicy like the Four Horsemen, but it's a do-it-all spicy seasoning. It's cuminy. It's fantastic. It's great. The Cajun, you know what Cajun is. Do you want that, but without all the processed crap that comes in like a thing of McCormick's or whatever, where they have all the... No, this has ingredients you can actually read. It's natural. It's great. It's not that processed BS. Some homemade Cajun seasoning, way better than the crap that you get at most of the grocery stores. The Smoked, again, this is sort of like another full-bodied smoke. It's kind of like the Sonoran Heat, but it has a stronger smoke flavor. I'm a big fan of it. It goes on everything. It's incredibly versatile. The savory. The savory is great on pork, especially if you're doing like a shredded pork, or even if you're just doing a whole big piece of pork that you're going to put in the slow cooker. Savory is great for that. If basically, whenever I have it, I kind of think of shredded stuff, shredded chicken, shredded pork. That's how I sort of think of the savory. The two border, great for breakfast. It's like a spicy maple blend. Put it on your eggs, put it on your bacon, put it in your sausage, or on your sausage, maybe if you're making homemade sausage. I think it would be great inside your homemade sausage. The S&P bud, Kyle already told you about that. It's fantastic. The Kerry steak, Kyle already told you about that. It's fantastic. Then you have the Discord and the Four Horsemen. Both are a 4-pepper, very spicy, way more spicy than the Sonoran Heat. So if you like that kick, if you want something that's going to punish you if you use a little too much of it, you're going to want to look at the Discord or the Four Horsemen. The Discord has a bit of a sweet base to it. The Four Horsemen has more of a salty base to it. That's the difference there. And then there's the Ope. It's smoked ranch. It's smoked. It's ranch. Get on board. All of this and more can be found at themadcanadianbbq.com. Use Sloopcast10, that is Sloopcast10 at checkout to get 10% off your entire order. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, they have your butts covered.